How Tacitus Viewed the Germans. Germania by Publius Cornelius Tacitus. A moral ethnography and a Roman self-indictment. Tacitus's Germania is far more than a geographical description or simple catalogue of tribes. It is, and Tacitus intends it to be, an ethnographic mirror held up to Roman society. What we know of the Germans in the 1st century CE comes almost entirely from this work, which Tacitus composed when he was an established senator and historian deeply concerned about the moral health of Rome. Germania juxtaposes Roman decadence with German vigour, not simply to document barbarians, but to show what Rome might have been before luxury, law, and empire eroded its ethical foundations. Tacitus claims not to have travelled among the Germans. His information comes from reports of traders, exiles, soldiers, and older writings. Yet, despite his distance, he writes a vivid, systematic, and remarkably coherent portrait that combines physical description, social practices, legal customs, ritual life, and descriptions of individual tribes. 1. Germans as indigenous, unmixed, and pure. Tacitus begins with a claim that upsets Roman assumptions about cultural superiority. The Germans, he insists, are autochthonous. They come from their soil and remain unmixed with foreign peoples. For my own part, I agree with those who think that the tribes of Germany are free from all taint of intermarriage with foreign nations, he writes. This purity is not a biological assertion in the modern sense, but a moral symbol of coherence. A people whose way of life has not been diluted by luxury, migration, or the cosmopolitanism that, in Tacitus's view, weakened Rome. This purity also underlies his claim of uniform physical traits, fierce blue eyes, reddish hair, and large frames. These traits are not, for Tacitus, evidence of racial science but reflections of a life lived in common struggle and austerity, shared bodily form expressing shared moral dispositions. Tacitus further reports a German origin myth, an earth-born god, Tuisto, whose son Manus begat the ancestors of the Ingavanes, Herminones, and Istaivanes. This shared descent story reinforces a sense of common identity across many autonomous tribes. 2. Harsh land, hard men. Germania's land is bleak. Forests and marshes, insufficient fruit trees, undersized herds, and few precious metals. Tacitus portrays the German environment not merely as backdrop, but as ethical causation. The people are shaped by climate and soil. Climate for him is part of cultural formation. Cold and hunger are bearable. Heat and thirst are not. This environmental toughness produces men unaccustomed to luxury and unspoiled by over-refinement. They do not tolerate heat or thirst, yet endure cold and hunger with a stoicism Romans lacked. For Tacitus, this is a moral strength, not a lamentable primitiveness. Tacitus's argument parallels a long-standing Roman belief that virtue arises from necessity rather than abundance. A people unspoiled by plenty might retain a sharper ethical edge than one submerged in wealth and ease. 3. War as moral discipline. War in German society is not a strategic game, it is a moral right. Tacitus describes battle cries, baritus, and war songs sung before combat, intended not merely to intimidate, but to invigorate the warriors' hearts. 4 aspects of German war culture stand out. Leadership by example. Chiefs led by personal courage rather than arbitrary command. Honour and prestige come from bravery in combat, not decrees from above. Kinship in battle. Warriors fight shoulder to shoulder with family, making courage a communal duty and the presence of relatives a moral witness to performance. Honour and shame. It is a disgrace to flee or to survive while one's chief falls. Loyalty is not contractual but existential. Idle peace and warlike identity. In tribes where peace has lasted too long, vigour atrophies. War for the Germans is the school of virtue. Tacitus admires these martial customs, but he does not romanticize them. He notes they are unrefined, lacking institutional discipline, and prone to cycles of violence. Yet, to his Roman audience, this very rawness suggests authenticity. 4. Women as moral anchors. In Tacitus's Germania, women occupy a striking place in the ethical universe of the tribe. They are chaste and monogamous, but more importantly, they act as moral witnesses and inspirers of courage. Germanic marriages are austere and profound. Vows bind a wife to her husband for life, not for social convenience. Tacitus contrasts this with Roman norms, where marriage has become contractual and subject to dissolution. In wartime, women influence outcomes, whether by rallying warriors with protests against captivity or participating symbolically in community courage. Tacitus even cites cases where women's entreaties turned the tide of battle. This focus on women is not mere exoticism. It reflects Tacitus's deeper critique of Roman decadence, where sexual mores had become complex and permissive, a sign of moral opacity, not strength. 5. Freedom without sophistication. Tacitus repeatedly emphasizes the inefficiency of German political processes. Assemblies are noisy and protracted. Decisions are made without ceremonial rhetoric. Gatherings are open to all free men. Yet this inefficiency is the price of freedom, not its absence. Tacitus contrasts two moments of decision, one in drunken openness, the other in sober deliberation. This duality fascinates him. Germans arrive at shared decisions without rhetoric, law codes, or bureaucratic mediation. Rome, by contrast, had developed intricate legal systems and oratorical culture, but Tacitus implies that these had not increased moral clarity. German freedom lacks polish but remains transparent. Roman freedom, constrained by law, is opaque. 6. Religion without temples. Germanic religion, for Tacitus, is primitive yet ethically revealing. The Germans do not confine gods within temples or create human likenesses. Instead, they consecrate woods and groves, holding sacred the open sky and the forest, where divination and sacrifice take place. Tacitus notes, Mercury is chiefly worshipped. On appointed days, human sacrifice is considered permissible. Sacred groves and abstract reverence replace stone sanctuaries. Augury and lots are important methods of divination, blending personal and community religious life. The absence of idol worship and temple priesthood does not imply spiritual emptiness. For Tacitus, it indicates religion rooted in nature and communal experience rather than professionalized institutions. 7. Idleness, violence, and moral simplicity. Tacitus is careful not to idealize the Germans. Their leisure often turns to excessive drinking and violence. Hospitality festivals may end in brawls, and gambling is widespread to the point where men may stake their freedom on a throw of dice. Moreover, agriculture is rudimentary. Germans prefer plunder and war to the tame labour of fields. Tacitus records these facts bluntly, refusing romantic gloss. Yet, even in these excesses, German vice is visible. It admits its faults. It is not hidden behind legal abstractions and rhetorical defences, as in Rome. Tacitus repeatedly contrasts this moral simplicity with Roman ambiguity, where vice is often cloak and dagger rather than overt. 8. Funeral rites and respect for the dead. Tacitus describes German funerals as devoid of pomp. Illustrious men are burned on pyres with their weapons, and sometimes with their horses. Graves are simple turf mounds. Elaborate monuments are rejected as oppressive. Mourning is measured. Women may weep visibly. Men are expected to contain their grief internally. This restraint reflects broader cultural values. Public expression of sorrow is controlled, not suppressed, aligning emotion with social expectations rather than individual indulgence. 9. Variation among tribes and wider worldviews. In the latter half of Germania, Tacitus catalogues many tribes, noting differences in customs, geography, and relative strength. He describes the Chatti, militaristic and disciplined; the Chauci, peaceful yet powerful through reputation; the Suevians, whose hair-tying customs symbolize identity and war readiness; the Semnones, whose sacred grove rituals include elaborate rites and even human sacrifice; peripheral peoples like the Aisti and the Feni, living on the margins of the known world. This diversity reminds the reader that Germania is not a single culture, but a constellation of related cultures, each illustrating a different facet of life beyond Rome's grasp. 10. Germania as a philosophy of decline. Tacitus never urges Rome to emulate the Germans wholesale. He knows that German societies could not easily govern great empires. Yet his underlying message is unmistakable. Rome's moral decline is more dangerous than any external foe. Germany, in Tacitus's account, represents freedom without corruption, virtue born of necessity, social life grounded in custom, not law, religion rooted in nature, not institutions, honour visible, not obscured by legalism. Rome, by contrast, appears cosmopolitan but morally diluted, wealthy but ethically fragile, sophisticated but internally fractured. Tacitus stands uneasily between admiration and warning. He is too Roman to return to barbarism, too honest to celebrate imperial decadence. Germania is therefore less an ethnography of Germans per se than a philosophy of civilization and decline, written from the frontier where Rome's shadow and its own limits could still be seen clearly. Closing insight. Tacitus's Germans are not simply themselves. They are Romans as they feared becoming, stripped of self-deception, confronted with the essentials of honour, community, courage and mortality. Germania is therefore more than anthropology. It is a moral mirror for Rome and all civilizations that forget their own origins and vulnerabilities.